One, Lord. Stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Fails to give us our national anthem. Oh, my fault. We'll say thank you everybody for attending our meeting tonight. Those that are online and those that are in person. We are certainly glad that you're here with us. Please just work with us as we conduct the business of our school district. This time we're going to have our public participation. We have, is it only two that we have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we do have two. Tonight we're going to hear from Ms. Ashley Wilkins, who's a teacher, and she has teacher and parent concerns. We'll hear from Ms. Samiko Bennett, treatment of teachers in school shutdown. Can you hear? I mean, can audience hear his name? I'm checking it right now. Hey, Ms. Wilson, how you doing? Give us a minute, try to make sure they can hear.
Okay.
Check 1, 2. Number 3 strong. Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for allowing me to speak with you all again tonight. I would like to enlighten you with a few concerns that were not considered before abruptly moving Pines Elementary School students and staff to Preston. I am aware that a decision had to be made after the results were released, but why so soon? I would like to share with you some of the concerns from my parents, colleagues, and myself. 1, if the testing was done on March the 25th, 2021, the results were released on March the 30th, 2021. Why did the students return after spring break, which began on April the 2nd, 2021? 2, why were teachers instructed to solicit family members and friends to move furniture in our vehicles to another location. Is that not a liability for the district? 3, how were we expected to pack up a room or grab necessary items with a 2-day notice while still being expected to prepare a conducive learning environment? 4, we have had 3 first days of school. First virtual day, first face-to-face day. Now we will have a new location day. Will there be a transition day for the students and parents? 5, mold is a living organism that can multiply and spread on surfaces that are not constantly clean. If we are moving because of mold and taking furniture with us, there is a great possibility mold will be spread and crested. 6, we do not have access to our administrators in our building. We have to walk to the high school because we do not have our phones in our rooms yet to reach them. 7, are our rooms going to be cleaned regularly? At the moment, the custodians have spent their days moving furniture and haven't had enough time to complete their assigned duties. 8, we have been using our personal cellular devices to contact parents to try to push this issue into full force to make its way to work before Monday. Asking them, are you going to be a bus rider or car rider? How can we meet your needs? Parents are unsure of how to respond in such a swift moment. The buildings are not 100% ready. Things are being done in a hurry. Our administrators are becoming overwhelmed and stressed out. If the administrators are stressed out, the teachers are stressed out. And that spirit is passed on to our students. All I ask is that with whatever decision is made, that the transition time of at least 1 week be allowed for students and staff to be able to meet the needs and be effective teachers to produce effective 21st citizens. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Did you make sure that Ms. Pettiford get a copy of it
Yes.
so we can respond back to you?
All right, will do. I'll keep it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm doing good. How about yourself? Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak this tonight. I have numerous of concerns, but only a few stick out to me the most. I know decisions have to be made. However, being sent to another work location with a 2-day notice, we had to leave our comfort zone work location to be going into rooms that were abandoned. When I say abandoned, I mean left without care. This means the rooms had not been cleaned. This was due to our custodians, supported staff, and teacher assistants moving furniture to start preparing rooms for students. If I am expected to teach, I need technology and other items in my classroom. The rooms are not equipped with technology and they have chalkboards. Last but not least, we came from a building that had staff restrooms, or we were in a location to get someone to cover our class. In this case, there is only one staff bathroom that is not located near our classes. I would also like to add that there are not enough teacher assistants to relieve us. Are we not supposed to use the bathroom or have a bathroom break? Please consider the learning environment when making this decision. We are teaching our future leaders here. Thank you for your time and your consideration. You're welcome.
Parent, Ms. Shana Best. Mr. Shana, thank you.
I have some general concerns as I expressed the other night in the community meeting. Number one, I would like for my child to continue face-to-face learning, but I do think it will be a strain on me and on my child if she has to commute so far to Crestwood. I feel that my child will be really groggy from an hour and a half, almost 2 hour commute to Crestwood. Would the teachers be, not lenient, because I know the expectations of a child, but would they, be able to deal with that? Are they ready to deal with a groggy kid? Are they ready to deal with a tired child that have to commute all the way to Crestwood? And I live on the Martin County line, almost. And that my child is going to be irritated. Will she be able to learn? And then when you come home, she will have homework. And that's taking a lot of time from any leisure activity, any time for her to wind down. What about are there any type of electronics there, technology there for her to continue with her learning skills at Crestwood? Will there be any type of, I worry about her food. Will she be able to eat? I mean, we have like everything lined up. Is it building in working condition? That's my concern, because it's been out of working condition for a while, or it's been out, used for a while. Well, I want to know if the building going to be in working condition when my child goes there. And I worry about the safety of my kids. And I just need some answers about that. And will the teacher take into consideration that the children want to take an hour and a half, almost 2 hour commute to and from the school? That's a lot on the kid. And those are my concerns, and those, I know they're general, and I know they're not anything specific, but there are my concerns with my kids. Thank you.
We'll get into some more discussion of that when we get down. Competitive students. Thank you for participation. Washington County Schools will be led by 21st century professionals. Approval of the personnel report.
Second.
Moving and properly second, all in favor? Motion carried. Approval of summer learning schedule, incentive tier, and bonus pay. Oh, I'm sorry. Approval of COVID pay. Yes, the two.
Chairman,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. What we have here for you is just a preliminary figure for us to be able to submit our application on time to DPI. What they do is they give you some big broad stroke general categories. I would let the board know that there is a requirement for us to spend at least 20% of what's received in Washington County on what is termed learning loss. Now that does have to include the mandated summer extended learning program that became law with House Bill 82. So that does have a provision of requiring at least 20% of both ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 dollars. But there is some areas of ESSER 2 that roll over to ESSER 3, but they are two uniquely different applications. These are suggestions that have been made. They are in line with our comprehensive needs assessment. They're in line with some items that have been brought up by the board and our staffs, things that we would like to see upgrades that also keep in mind health and safety with moving more towards touchless things such as commodes and water stations and things of that nature. But I do also want to say that when this application is submitted, if it's submitted on time by the May 7th deadline, that would make the funds available for our current summer programming with extended learning and would be very helpful in meeting salaries for that. If we do not submit it on time, we've been told that we can expect approval and availability of funding in the fall. So our goal is to bring it before you in some broad categories. Once the application is approved, things can, shift as needed when we get bids back that may reveal a greater need in one area. And then we get real concrete looks at how much things are going to cost. But the idea is that it's to support the whole district, not one building, but the whole district in moving our district forward and obviously keeping in mind students' academics. And so I put before you the committee ideas on ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. ESSER 2 dollars coming to Washington County School are $2,976,512, and ESSER 3 dollars are $6,667,736. All of this is to be inclusive of from now till 2024, and it is supposed to embrace all the summer requirements as well.
I was looking at the plan for ESSER 3. And see,
This one's ESSER 2 and this one's ESSER 3. Yes, sir.
Two maintenance staff. Is that a higher position? To hire two more maintenance people?
For the duration of the funding, if it's approved by the board. But again, what you want is to have everything possible you may do
That's right.
in your
Inside
plan.
surgery, yeah.
And then let's say that you discover that something's going to cost a lot more. You may never hire that person, and that may not ever come to fruition, but you're covered because it was in your plan. If it's not in your plan, you can't do it. So
Anyway, we can include, if we put two maintenance staff, and it's up to the board, is that any way we can include, because I see the cleaning of the HVAC systems and ducts and all that good stuff. Is there any way we could include, some janitors in this? Custodial workers with the help with the disinfecting and all that, because they, of course, need, support now. We're so limited to what we have. Will we include that in some way?
we would have to, move things around in order to do that, but
At least add an additional one to each school.
so to answer your question, yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we can just put like Dr. Carr said, we need to put it in here.
Right.
And that way we
If
get
you
it.
possibly
If you
need it.
You put it in here and then at least we know it's in it. Y'all see a problem with that, board? Y'all okay with it?
That's fine.
How long is this grant? We don't get all the funds all at one time, is what you're saying?
I'm not sure how it'll arrive. And I'm not sure what that process will be, but one of them that deadline is 2023 and the second one is 2024. So you've got to kind of try to come up with a plan to help try to predict what you want to do with that funding.
I'm just curious, if you're approved, when you get the funding.
Well, that's the push to get it in by May 7th,
Right.
because DPI has strongly encouraged boards that can to go ahead and put in the application, try to make sure anything that you may possibly ask for is in the application. Mr. Kramer
I'm
will,
not cutting you off.
Right.
I was asking.
Mr. Kramer will have it finished this weekend if it's board approved tonight for these categories.
What's the thing, I'll bring us money, we want to go ahead and get it.
Well, and they are not saying that we won't get the funds. They're just saying LEAs that do not get it submitted by the May 7th deadline will not have it to help with summer extended learning.
You might,
And that,
yeah,
that was my question.
you might want to submit, let's go ahead and get it
If we get it
submitted.
submitted before the deadline,
It makes it available.
will we be able to draw down the $2.9 million to ESSER two fund?
I don't know if the whole thing comes at one time, but we may have to, like sometimes you have to order money. It may be one of those kinds of things, but once the application is approved, money would be available. Yes, ma'am. Well, it's on the agenda for you to approve tonight or not approve, but we've got to submit the plan to the state. So it's on the list.
I think the ESSER 2 money will come first.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's put it down to the next piece.
Okay.
And excuse me, I don't mean janitors and custodians there. I don't want to, I'm trying to degrade, I'm not trying to degrade anybody. Custodian technicians.
Yes, sir.
That's right, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's good. So board, I shouldn't have a problem with getting a motion with getting some money this year. I do that. It's been moved and properly second, all in favor? Motion carried. That's good. So will you just kind of update us when the application is submitted? Just kind of keep us in the loop.
Yes, and also Ms. Jordan will have strict guidelines on tracking that money and submitting reports to DPI. So they're gonna keep their finger on it and what your county's doing with it. So we can make that a regular report with finance too, to keep you updated.
That'd be a good idea, the bread, well, with that money.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Norman, you keep that straight, man. I gotta keep that straight, okay? Who's on the finance committee with you, man? It's okay, all right, so y'all got a lot of money coming to you, y'all be.
I can't wait.
y'all-
Hey, we can sit here and talk about the budget, but before anything's been approved, the whole body of the board got to approve.
Yeah, that's right.
We can think about it, we can bring it to the board.
We appreciate all you do. Okay, approval of the summer learning schedule, incentive and bonus pay.
Yes, sir. Okay, let me,
Am I moving?
no, I just gotta get my head on. Okay, so, we really could not bring before you what the recommendation was gonna be for summer extended learning until we knew clearly what was gonna be required by law. And then if there was any flexibility within that law. And so it is proposed to look significantly different than it has in past years. Because in past years, usually your summer learning embraced about 2 weeks. Sometimes it extended to 3 or 4 weeks with the elementary children with Read to Achieve. So this is a comprehensive plan that's proposed for you. And it also includes, the principals also wanted the opportunity to remediate and retest for all EOCs. So it also capitalizes on that opportunity. But it basically boiled down to your LEA had to make the conscientious decision of did you want 150 hours from the minute you finished 1 year to right before you start a new year, or did you want 30 days? So the committee decided that 30 days was better. And so the proposal for you is 30 days. And the 30 days would basically start June the 14th. And the days are listed here for you in the program planning. And it would end on August the 4th. So it is a 4-day week proposal for Monday through Thursday. The day would look like 8 to 3 for teachers and teacher assistants. The day for students would be 8:30 to 2:30. It was written into the law that there wanted to be some efforts to not only increase their skill levels with ELA, math, and science, but that there also had to be a physical ed component, that there needed to be opportunities for enrichment available at some point during the week for areas such as art or music, things like that. And so that has to be a part of it. Now, there is a real distinct line between K-8 and high school. High schools seem to have much more flexibility. High school has taken on a flavor across the state to be more of course recovery, and it is supposed to target the required courses like biology, math 1 and 3, as well as some of those key some of the key areas like elective areas. But anyway, here is a plan before you. Now, you might notice something kind of unique with it for the proposal for this year, and it may or may not be something that the board wants to consider. There are districts that, knowing that we're coming on the heels of pandemic year, and also because it was written into the legislation that there had to be made available bonus pay, like Mr. Riddick alluded to, with National Board Certified Teachers, as well as any teacher that had received teacher bonus for, student proficiency in the past few years. But we only have a handful of those teachers, but it clearly says if they agree to work the 6-week period, that they should off the top get a $1,200 sign-on bonus. But there are lots of districts, Northeast included, because we actually discussed this morning, and it does vary across different counties. But there are lots of districts that are offering something entitled incentive pay to get people to come in. Remember, these are all temporary contracts. They're not accruing retirement time. They are all from the break of one calendar year to the next calendar year. So that is important to remember. And it's also important to note that the thought process was that it would be based on the amount of weeks worked. So it would be something payable at the end of a week. And the reason I bring that up is there are teachers that have discussed working, but maybe they can only commit 3 weeks. And then the partner teacher would commit 3 weeks. So we would have that agreed upon at the beginning, and then after they completed the time is when they'd be eligible if the board wants to entertain incentive pay. And that is built into the current plan. If if approved. So that's a real quick highlight. As far as the testing that we're proposing, it would be the EOG in math and science for 5th and 8th grade, the EOC for high school for math 1 and 3 and biology. And the idea is that students would come in and remediate from June 14th through the 23rd. And then we would test math on June 24th and science for 5th and 8th graders on June 25th. And then high school would do remediation for math and biology, June 1st through the 9th. The math test would be on June 10th, biology, that should say May the 11th, June the 11th instead of May, but it would be June the 11th. And that is really super fast, but I can go in more detail if you'd like.
I have a question.
Okay.
I see here on transportation, you got $90,000. You put that much $90,000?
We are going to save money if we go with the proposal that's put before you. And the proposal is to have K through 8 out of Washington County Middle School. So that is actually a savings of going to one site. But that is the anticipated cost with a savings of going to one campus. Yes, ma'am. And of course, all this is contingent upon how many students actually take us up on, we're going to offer it. And then we're only able to hire and commit to staff at a ratio of 1 to 10 is what we're proposing. But, you know, we are going to offer this opportunity to students that might have been struggling or maybe are at risk of not having the skills that they need for the next grade level. So it would be offered to them. But if we don't have a large turnout for them, then we may not need as many people as this proposal would cover.
Will be $60.
So they're gonna have to go, summer school, August.
Yes, ma'am. Our choices were we could choose 150 hours, which is required, it's a law.
Spread out over a wider period of time.
No, well, wider in that it could go up to the first day of school, which would have been August 17th. It could have gone up to that because it would not have been possible once your teachers go back to work. So it could, if we could go with the 150-hour plan, but then that would have it a longer span.
On the part of some.
Yes, and again, the 30-day had more appeal because when you go with the hours, it's interesting, the different rules. But when you go with the hours, you have to take out lunch and physical activity and any transition. None of that counts for your hours. So there were many more rules and regulations that went with the hour count versus the day count. It's just a unique. And this is in place for, I'm assuming this is the next mandate for the next few years because they gave us the funding to do it through ESSA, the expectation. The teachers go back August 17th for elementary and middle, and high school goes back earlier. I'd have to, like the first week in August. Yeah, so, but again, this would work for both schedules. No, it goes through August 4th. But it did allow for a 4-day week, which was a high appeal to the teachers, the TAs, as well as administrative staff. Just, typically in the summer, it moved to a 4-day week. And so there was a large cry to try to work out a plan that would enable that to stay in place. And we also thought that kids may be more excited about coming if it was only 4 days versus a 5-day week.
Really have a good idea for everybody. That's why you get tired from the way. But activity, a lot of activity going on in the summertime.
Central office goes on 4 days.
Some school.
Well, what the administration would like to do is students that have not performed well and been absent a lot, they'd like to send letters that say summer extended learning is required for you to move to the next grade. And then another letter that would say summer extended learning is offered to you and recommended. And so there would be 2 distinct different type letters that would go out. I understand. And this does meet the letter of the law. Well, I hope I answered it.
Off.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want New York, New Jersey, California.
And they would have clarity at the end of the school year. Actually, they'd have clarity next week because those letters are ready to roll as soon as the school board approves the summer extended learning plan. But yes, sir. But there is already clarity for some that a letter would need to go out that say required. And then there may be some that really are going to need that last week of school for it to say if it looks more like required versus recommended.
That was my question, like Ms. Chair said, it's mandatory that we offer it. But
We can't make students come, but
well, see,
then,
that's why.
but then the principal most likely would retain them.
Well, and I thought that we talked about that, some time ago, when we first got this pandemic, we would retain kids. Because of all the,
Yeah.
this wasn't anything that was forced on children. And I think that would just add more stress or pressure to our house if we retain kids during a pandemic.
Right, but I think
I am not comfortable with it, and I mean, that's just me. And you guys may be. I think that we don't need to retain anybody. This is gonna look like a different year because we're going back to school now. I don't think we need to retain nobody, and I would be careful about telling somebody after we just came out of the pandemic, you are required
Yes,
to
sir.
come to summer school.
well, and
I know it's like the chair said, mandatory that we offer it, but I don't think we need to make it mandatory and say kids are required to come to summer school.
well, and they wouldn't be required, but remember that the principal is given that latitude to grade and place and classify.
Of
So
course.
if
Okay, I
the
don't wanna take that
principal,
part, but I
yeah,
don't
the
think
principal,
we want to retain anybody.
but the principal has that authority given to them. And if by teacher recommendation, and a teacher is going to think really long and hard before they even suggest that, but you have students that have habitually been absent. And when I say absent, I'm talking about not even logging on, not submitting work. So I would beg to say that I don't think our administrators are going to be punitive and abusive with that power, but
They ain't going to the administrator, they want direction from us.
okay,
If they hear what we say, they receive direction, but I know they wouldn't do it. I trust all our administrators, I've been working with them for a long time. And so I know they will make the right decision, I'm just saying. And you guys can chime in as you feel, I don't think we need to retain nobody, I don't think nobody would agree just from out of the middle of a pandemic we don't even know how it's gonna look during the summer when everybody start rolling. When they hit the road, they're gonna hit the road. So we don't know how it's gonna look in August.
It's really, I have to wonder how it will look if we don't retain somebody and they end up so far behind next year. You know, how are we going to, make that work?
And that's true.
Just push somebody.
See, and I can see that too, but I want to know what the state says to us about, because I know one time the state said you couldn't retain nobody in the pandemic. That was the thing, so I don't know what it is now.
It's more about,
Because one day if you don't know what you.
last year was much more about, we're not gonna retain anybody, it's a special thing. Now it's more about, we've had enough of this, and we've suffered a lot, and now you gotta make sure people are prepared for the next year.
That's true.
And that's why they mandated this program.
That's true.
And then you offer the program, and everybody.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm okay with that, but I don't think we need to tell somebody they're required to come.
Well, I think, the question I would have,
I would be,
I think it would be useful to hear, and maybe she's already mentioned, I didn't catch it, but how the emphasis on this program for this summer would compare to the way you select and emphasize summer remediation programs or summer extended learning programs prior to it. In other words, you're trying to reach a broader group of people now than traditionally have. But I guess what I'm asking is there a difference in the way you're going to try to encourage people to attend this than you've done in the past? And I'm assuming that there is. You're going to try to have a larger group of people attending. I'm just wondering how those two efforts are different.
I believe that the difference would be the length of time. And these two letters have been used years past in the similar effort in that one would be required and one would be highly recommended. Because, summer learning has always been an opportunity for students to gain just a little more. But
Dr. Carver, these letters go out before we get the test results from their.
typically, this is about the time of year that, and it's usually about this time of year that you're in your last quarter. And it appears as if, your performance so far indicates that it's going to be difficult for you to have passing grades. And so there usually is clarity by this time, what probability there will be that you would get passing grades. Now, that's not to say that if somebody didn't really buckle in and, really start improving greatly, that, either a teacher and or administrator wouldn't flip, to say, okay, well, you've moved out of the required to, you've moved to the recommended. But that's a typical year. You've got to give families kind of the idea, you look like you should be spending time with us this summer, and you go ahead and plant that seed and send out those letters because it has the dates on it. Right. And that is something that our families are waiting for, and we have to submit these plans to the state. You're required to submit your summer extended learning plan within 30 days of your last day of school. Well, high school's getting ready to end really soon. And the reason it wasn't brought to you before is because we didn't have clarity on what was required to put in the program until last Tuesday. So that's when we finally got the word on the street of what it was supposed to be and what it had to look like.
And it's still running out. Talking to the superintendent at Kansas School last night, it's still not on.
Okay, now let's go on to the summer school. Do we say how many students we got to have to enroll in that program?
We will, no, to answer your question clearly, but what we have proposed to you is we are trying to do a 1-to-10 ratio. And so depending on our number of students that want to accept our invitation would be how many we would employ.
Anybody have any more questions? Comments or concerns?
Just remember, our governor said everything will be open by June first.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Just saying.
I'm just saying that.
Let's get it out there.
That's it.
I'll go. I'll go and get into that.
Ms. Peel also mentioned, and I appreciate her reaching out and sharing that with me. English 2 was accidentally left off our plan, so we'll make sure that we get that submitted as the opportunity to retest.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the summer learning schedule, incentive and bonus pay. So moving properly second, all in favor? Motion carried. Unanimous, Ms. Christian. Unanimous. Approval of fundraisers for Washington County Early College High School. Where is it?
It's just listed there, because it wasn't on the initial, at the beginning of the year. And it was requested in order to help with general funds is the Beer Festival one. And the Krispy Kreme donuts was mentioned during the presentation last month by the kids, but you really hadn't officially approved doing another fundraiser. So that was to defray the cost of the prom, but they could just pay the ticket price if they wanted to. I think it's $20, but if they wanted to kind of work for it, then they could sell the donuts if the fundraiser was approved by the board. But the Bear Festival one, they planted little seedlings and they were going to sell soft drinks and basically kind of just get together and support the Bear Festival and being together and get some exposure for the school.
They have to pay for the food at the Bear Festival, so that money will have to come out of there.
I think that has been negotiated, but I can get you that answer. The first weekend in June,
It's all the first. Let's move on.
I'm looking forward to it. I've never been.
Okay, so board in motion to approve the fundraisers for Washington County. I won't name what they're listed. I'll just say the fundraisers for Washington County Early College High School. So moved and properly second, all in favor? Motion carried. Okay.
He said no cost for the Bear Festival food.
No cost, okay, great.
That was quick. Oh, he must be on time. Approval of the Education Workforce Innovation Grant.
That is a required resubmission by CTE for welding, and Ms. Wrighton is available if you need more details, but to sum it up quickly is to continue with the welding project, and it's to secure more funding for the welding program.
The only thing that we're program, I just want this time to, for us to be more attentive to the funds. Because I know the last time we paid, they had 3 people. One person couldn't do the job of moving the equipment, and so we were paying people, we were paying 3 people to do one job. And so I just want to make sure that won't happen again.
The equipment been moved, is it ready?
Yeah, like somebody can unhook it, and then the guy that unhooked it didn't know how to put it together. So they had to hire somebody to put it together. And I mean, it was 15, and everybody was charging $1,500 to $1,600. This money is coming out of CTE. So I want us to be careful this time, and there was no fault to Ms. Wright. That was who she just referred back to the maintenance department, you know, and there's no rule about it. I'm just saying, we just gotta make sure this time we don't spend the money. If we're gonna spend it, make sure we just get the person that can fix it to do it right the first time.
It actually was ready to go at the beginning of the semester, but and Ms. Peel and Ms. Harris had everybody ready to go. And Mr. Lewis from Beaufort Community College, but they were unable in that quick turnaround time to secure an instructor. So now they have new applications for students for the fall, and they got a longer period of time to secure an instructor. But yes, it's ready. It's ready for students, and we have sent student applications to Beaufort, and we're ready to roll.
All right, so just keep us updated on how that's going.
I think she wanted you to approve this application.
Oh, sure.
I make a move, I make a motion to approve the application.
And so Beaufort Community College, Beaufort Community College is gonna get the instructor.
Yes, sir, they're hired through Beaufort.
You said it's right, Ms. E?
She was online.
It's on the Zoom.
If you wanted her, Mr. Smith could unmute her if you had questions for her.
I don't think it was ready at the beginning of the semester. I don't think it was quite ready. I think we were in the process of.
You had okayed them to start in February.
Okay, but we weren't ready when it was.
It was because we didn't have an instructor.
Okay, that's what, I mean, I just knew it wasn't ready to go. That's what I was.
We were ready, but
Instructor.
we didn't have an instructor. Yes, sir.
All right, so voting on motion to approve the education workforce innovation ring.
You just had one.
Yeah.
he made a motion.
I'll get a motion in a second.
Oh, then hit it already.
Then you can hear the discussion.
And she said.
Oh, y'all tough, ain't you? Wait on you, get moved and properly second, all in favor? Let's get some welding done. Get some welding, that's good. I do want to say, commend the CTE department, or all our departments, CTE also, because we're talking about that now. They have worked, with a teacher being out, they have worked together to try to fill roles, so I want to commend Ms. Wright and her team. Excellent job. Thank you for everybody. They've been, we're just talking about CTE right now, but I do want to say they're doing a fine job, and so we appreciate them. Washington County Schools will produce globally and competitive students. Discussion/approval for Pines Elementary School staff and students for the remainder of the 2020-2021 school year. Want to begin,
Sure.
Carl, will you
Sure.
chime in as needed?
Sure.
Okay.
Chairman Reddick, when we had the unfortunate news at the last board meeting, shared by Piedmont Service Group, that indicated elevated levels that made us uncomfortable with both mold spores and carbon dioxide. The board approved going into remote instruction for Wednesday through Friday of that particular week. And we were supposed to come up with a viable option moving forward to continue instruction beyond that. And so a lot of consultation took place because there were many things to consider. Pre-K has its own set of rules. We consulted with DPI, consulted with actually state council for DPI, and as to what to do at this point in the school year. And the suggestion was said that we needed to move as at a reasonable pace to continue to make both face-to-face and virtual an option for this year. And so then it was asked, well, if we stayed on remote another week, would that be acceptable? And they said it was. A week and a half is not an extended amount of time. And there was even conversation that we could look at it somewhat similar to if we were moved or relocated out of an area due to something of like hurricane or flood or tornado or something like that, you would have to find an alternative location. But I do hear the teachers, I commend all of them, the teachers and administration, because, you know, they have been uprooted from their home. And it's never as nice when you rent a location or you go into an alternate space. And sometimes things aren't as nice as they were where you were originally located. But I do commend the board, and I have done so publicly ever since that bold decision was made, that I think that the safety of our students and staff is where we start, and then we work towards their academic success. So I asked Mr. Peel, who is here tonight, and I also have access to our DPI regional person if we have questions for her. But I asked him to visit all the campuses to see what would be his recommendation for his staff. I mean, where would we be able to move them for the remainder of the year to cause the least amount of anxiety, and what would be his recommendation? And so after visiting the campuses, the proposal was to move the self-contained classroom to Washington County Middle, because we have a self-contained class at Washington County Middle. It would make it easier for students in regards to transportation because they can share busing. It would also be easier to procure their contracted services and make sure that, you know, the contracted folks were not traveling as much as they were providing services for the EC students. So Ms. Stokes and Mr. Peel found a location that was also acceptable to Dr. Dunsmore for that particular class at the middle school. And then after walking the other properties, the suggestion was K-2 move into Cresswell Elementary, and 3 through 5 move in the Cresswell High building, with the thought process that that would be for time period to the end of the 2021 school year. And long-term conversations would still need to take place with the board, but that's a separate decision and a separate conversation, maybe even a more lengthy conversation. But so that's the suggestion, Chairman Riddick, is that students start, they've been out a week and a half on remote, and that those that choose to attend face-to-face be given that option starting Monday at Cresswell Elementary for K-2, at Cresswell High for 3 through 5. And I wish that we could accommodate pre-K in a face-to-face, but their rules and regulations are so strict that the DCDEE folks have given us permission to stay remote with pre-K, because they too realize that there's no way we can have licensed classrooms for pre-K at a snap of a finger. It is very difficult to get a pre-K classroom licensed. So they have given us permission, and good news, we will be reimbursed for the teachers and the TAs, even though they're on remote, for the second half of April and May. We just have to extend those services to them. And I have confidence that our teachers and TAs will do that, but they would have a space at Cresswell High too. So all Pines Elementary staff would be relocated. The only real difference was because Mr. Rosenabe did not need all cafeteria workers to hold staffs of child nutrition at one location. He's redistributed permanent staff to different locations, kind of spread them out. And he has worked with Mr. Peel and Ms. Maloney on coming up with a plan to be able to serve all of the students hot breakfast and lunch, you know, the normal child nutrition manner. Mr. Parker's also gone down and worked with Mr. Peel about the safety of, additional buses and all that. We will have to run a shuttle bus from Crestwell back to the bus garage, but it would just be one bus because a lot of our drivers park at the bus garage. So we would have to, once kids got to campus, we'd take one bus and go back to the bus garage, and then they would get on that bus and go back to get on the other buses to redistribute the students. The same parent, Ms. Phelps, that came in to our Plymouth meeting, and also one of Ms. Smallwood's students asked, I thought, a great question, and Mr. Parker has made that provision as well. Students like that are used to being a car rider and dropped off at Pines, we would make a stop available at Pines, and we would pick them up at Pines and then drop them off at Pines. But the key to that is knowing what time that stop would be, so that parents would be there for the drop off and pick up, because the expectation wouldn't be that the bus would sit there. The students would need to be available to get on, and likewise, the parent would need to be there to collect the child after school. I think I've covered everything. Do you have any questions? Okay. I do not know what time they're getting up. The first bus leaves at about 6:15.
What time do these kids have to be up to catch the bus? That is a long ride. From Washington County to Berkeley. What time do they have to get up to catch the bus?
Yeah, I don't know what time they need to get up. I do know that we do have buses en route at 6:15. We have to provide a space.
The board remembers, Ms. Chairman was being, she's a man, but the board remembers, when we did consolidation, that was a big issue, with both communities. And Crestwell always feel like that they get their last meeting of the day. And because they're on the farther end of the county. And I really didn't want anybody to feel like we were trying to exclude people. Now, we did with the middle school because that's enrollment. Y'all remember, we did not want the little ones on the school buses that long, commuting from Plymouth or from Crestwell. The same scenario that Dr. Carr is talking about is what we did. Y'all remember we did consolidation. That was the now, if we're gonna do it for that end, we have to be considerate of the parents on this end now who are saying the same thing. I don't think DPI, because of the emergency situation, I do know that and you said somebody from DPI is on?
Yes, sir. She was just available in case you had questions.
I do know that with this situation, that they can remain virtual. It's on 4 weeks later.
Yes, sir.
I'm just afraid, my whole problem with it is that it's a week for the baby. We can be honest about it tonight. The kids are gonna have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. They're gonna have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that's just what's gonna be. So we discussed this, Mr. Phelps knows, Mr. Norman knows. They didn't want to do it from Crestwell to Plymouth. Because we were gonna consolidate the elementary school and everything. That was the cry of parents. Just don't make our babies ride that bus that long. I want to be considerate of the same way we did. Now, I know this is an emergency situation, and parents want face to face, but only got 4 weeks left. And if we could shut down the school in a day, we could say virtual for the next 4 weeks.
Yes, sir.
And I have to, let me finish what I'm saying. And remain remote, I don't think it will be a problem. Teachers can go if they have to. And if you want them to do it for some reason, I just feel like our teachers aren't trusted because it's like they got to have eyes on them all the time. When it's no, I mean, they still teaching regardless. My child, I got children in the school district, so I know. My children's teacher, when she was home, she taught very well from home. I was pleased with all of my children instructors. So with the fact that teachers might have to go, I understand. I don't even like it for them. But I think that we need to be considerate of this board. We need to take this into consideration. It ain't about a personal feeling. It ain't about just so we can have kids in the building. Kids gonna be getting up 4 o'clock in the morning. I gotta get up at 3 o'clock to go to warehouse. I know how tough it is for me. And I work 12 and a half hours. They're gonna ride on a bus, 2.5, almost 2 hours. Really 2 hours on a school bus that has a governor on it, that only let them run 50, 52, 53. And so we just gotta be considerate that we done it for that end. We gotta do it for this. And that's just my 2 bits. You know, I can't make nobody do nothing they don't wanna do. But I'm just saying, we need to take that into consideration tonight. DPI said we can provide it, but DPI also said that they can remain virtual because of the emergency situation. I do know that.
Well, I did consult with Allison Schaefer, who's legal counsel for DPI, and she said that the expectation was within what's reasonable. And she said, again, a week and a half is reasonable, but the COVID offering of remote still stays available. So a parent could choose for their child to stay remote or go remote if they choose not to return face-to-face. But doctors, yes. Yes, sir. And I hear you. I understand.
And we hear this presentation tonight, but I want this board to know that transportation is not ready. Plans are planned, they have to do bus routes.
The bus routes would stay the same except for the pickup at Pines.
Yeah, see, so we got, it's things like that we just, and I'm not taking side of nobody, I just want to just be open with us tonight because this needs to be talked about. You know, this.
Right.
We as teachers, you know, now y'all, I was here the other night, but teachers had to get family members to help them. You know, we gotta, I just think it's just a lot right now.
Yeah.
It's a lot going, a lot of pressure on a lot of people. Parents are pressured, they don't know what to do. Now they're saying that my child is in Crestwell, it's hard for me to get the Pine, how do I get to Crestwell? If my child has to go, you know, it's just things like that that we consider. We consider this when we consolidate schools. And we need to consider it again tonight. This is the same situation. Now, as a matter of fact, it's a little more drastic because it's just up in a wind and they don't have time to prepare. You know, and those that, I'm sorry for those that want to remain face to face, but sometimes it don't always work for everybody. But I think that we only have 4 weeks.
Right. I think after consulting with Allison Schaefer and Mr. Laddie, you could confirm, and Dr. Stickney has sent me back that there is a legislative order to provide face-to-face option, and they can remain virtual if they choose, but they have to be provided that option. And I believe that's what you would read in the new law, but they don't have to. They could go into virtual. And you have another constituency that is saying that, yes, it's longer, yes, it's inconvenient, but I want my child afforded that opportunity at face-to-face.
But I agree with what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Suppose we don't have 5 kids.
Then you provide it for those 5.
I gotta provide for those 5. But
I do think that there will be fewer students that will go face-to-face.
Because of this.
Yes, sir. I do think that our face-to-face will diminish some. And it will help a little bit that we're not doing the stops with pre-K, but not significantly.
I just want to be made clear that they don't have to,
no, they don't have.
you know what I'm saying? I just want that part to be made because, well, see, when information is shared, once it leaves her, leave us, or leave another person, stuff change. You know, And the last time it was said that they were 5 days, y'all remember? Kids were 5 days, but I want the parents to know and be assured that they don't have to send their child to Crestwell, they can remain birth.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't think we ever said that it was mandatory. for
Yeah, we
them.
got people perceive stuff, that's all.
And there's not a thing we can do about somebody else's perception.
Yeah, but we
Because
can,
what we have always said was we were offering face-to-face for those who want to take advantage of face-to-face or feel that that's what their child needs. Now, even in this situation, we're still just making an offer. You know, they don't have to send their children.
and the ones
To
that,
Crestwell.
the ones that want to this year, the commute is the other problem. So is there not and I know we done see me jump up and move everything down there.
Because we
I
had
didn't
to.
think, yeah, I know, no, I'm saying, I'm trying to think, was there another option
There really was not.
that we could, you know,
There,
that they could go, they don't have to ride that bus that long to Crestway. That's my only concern.
yes, sir, there were not enough spaces at either the middle school or the high school. And
We don't want to put them in the high school.
you could have had a grade or two at the middle school. But I agreed with Principal Peel, and he said, you know, if we are at Crestwell Elementary and Crestwell High, I can be in one building, the assistant principal can be in the other building, and I've just got to walk a couple of steps and I can be around all my kids except for this one class. So I supported that thought process, even though we could have probably accommodated a couple of grades at the middle school. It was choppy.
Some will still have to go to Crestway regardless.
Yes, sir. And even one grade level would have had to been in that high school building, but it feels better with 3 grades versus, you know, just 1 grade in there. But also the layout of where classes were already at the middle school, they would have been like all divided up. And the way they are now, it's like a hallway, and it's got all K through 2 together, because they're basically at the end of the hallway where Crestwell Elementary kids ended. And then in the other building, the same scenario, it feels better because it's like they're together.
I just, you know, I just want.
It's just not good. I mean, it's a
That's
mess.
what I mean, and I, you know, and I just want, you know, the citizens and the community to know that we are not, we don't have another building, you know, to put kids in, to have them closer home this right now. We are just forced to do this right now. It's an emergency situation, and when you're in a dire need, we have to make drastic decisions, and sometimes we're not gonna always agree, you know, on what's the best thing to do, because in an emergency, there is no best way to handle it. You just handle it the best way you think. You know, and right now we have a vacant building that now we're gonna have to put lights, well, we got lights and water because it's a PVC.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be utilized. My next question is, with the high school, Dr. Carr, I know we have a problem down there with that school, and you might not be aware, but board knows about that brown water that comes up a lot down there. Sometimes it turn on this all turn brown. There's no knocking against Crestwell. It's just a filtration system through the building. And it turns muddy brown. And so that's my next concern. Because of course, man, we're gonna have to start, and it's been like that, you know, but I know one time we started taking bottled water.
And we've been doing bottled water, if you'll recall, since the kids got back March 16th. Each child gets 2 bottles of water, and each staff member gets 2 bottles of water a day. Now, we do have written in ESER 2 and 3, some water filtration system, and we also, you are right, we have brown commodes, and they need to be replaced. But what I'd also love to see is an opportunity for, you know, you sit, you get up and it flushes itself, so you don't have to touch it. So a better sanitation level. Yes, sir. So that there are those thoughts, but like even with the touchless water fountains, like you just said, unless we address the water filtration system, you don't want them drinking the water. But all the water fountains are turned off, and all children and staff members are provided with bottled water.
There'll be more than 2 now, because it'll be all that.
Well, that's what we we've got budgeted, if they do get juice in the morning with breakfast and they get milk. So they get juice and milk as well for both meals.
The early college, started down the
No, ma'am. Remember, they came to the board and asked if they could wait till August. And the board gave approval for them to wait to relocate until August.
we couldn't put all our kindergarten kids in high school until we decide what we could do.
Well, if you'll recall, when we had our last board meeting, the decision was that we'd stay remote Wednesday through Friday, and I would get together with the team to come up with the viable option. And I asked Mr. Peel, the current administrator for Pines Elementary, to walk the campuses and to bring back his proposal, what he felt like would be best for the staff, and I supported it. But I do support his thoughts, and I think having them close together for both staff and students is wise. And, you know, students have only had the opportunity to be together since March 16th in a face-to-face fashion. So they, I'd hate to see them split apart now. And if kindergartners were on a high school campus, that'd be a whole nother situation going on. But I do think that he made a very wise proposal. The best that's available with the current set of circumstances in the middle of April. Right, but coming into, if we're in a situation where we need to consider more long-term results, then there's all sorts of things that could be reconsidered going into the next academic year. Lots of other proposals that could come to the table. Right, but nothing is saying that this would need to go beyond this academic year.
And I'm thinking on our last meeting, you said that survey that was sent out to the parents, and the 600 parents responded. And yeah, over 30% of the parents want to go to virtual, not to peer virtual.
Well, yes, sir, that's the next item to be discussed, but if you want me to jump there,
I just that thought that comes when we talk about that. Another thing too, as long as we got it out tonight that they can go virtual or live.
yes, sir.
Because I don't see nothing wrong with it. I mean, they got to go somewhere. That's the way I look at it. And virtue and live, as long as they know they can do either one.
Do you want me to respond to the survey or just hold it for a minute? Okay.
Because I feel like, I can't hear you. I consider other kids. It's not my decision.
Put it right down to include.
I tell them that it's not my decision. I don't make the rules. I'm on the one vote. I vote the way that I want to. But I feel like 6 weeks in school, well, I call DPI, and it's a board decision. It's up to the local board. It's the only thing they say, it's up to the local board, whatever they decide to do. I feel like with 6 weeks in school, the kids could stay virtual until we decide where we gonna put these kids next year.
I think the only problem with that is we have to offer face to face.
We offer them face to face, and still on the face to face, but I still feel like if they wanna be for everyone, wanna be virtual, I'm saying.
Exactly, yes,
They can.
they can. They can.
And we did, that's what we wanna make, that's what we saying, make it clear tonight. And they own, they hear, and we'll call, send out a message. I mean, but, you know, I just. Everybody gonna have this on. You know, and I just, you know, again, we're working, Ms. Clark knows. we're working, and this one, superintendent, we're working with the county commission. We had a very productive meeting the other night. Appreciate them, giving us that space and time along our county manager, to be able to come in and sit down and have good conversation about plans for, the future of Pines Elementary School and what it will look like. So, we just have to make a decision tonight. Kids can remain virtual or they can go face to face. I just want to make sure that, it gets out there like, that's fine. And I think it is. It's cool.
So what do you need from us now?
Discussion and approval for Pines Elementary School staff. I don't think we really need approval. More so just discussing so people know what direction we're going in. That's what I think. Yeah, this appeal.
He is here, but, he's kind of quiet. But I'm sure he'll come in if you want. Yeah.
You want to hear it? Yes. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I do recommend the board take action.
Sure.
On the superintendent's plan.
Yes, sir.
Just so we have an official action for approving this.
So no kids will be at the early college.
There are students at the Roper site of the early college. They've been there since March 16th.
Elementary.
I believe the question Ms. Clark was asking was, were early college students already down at Crestwell? But early college students are still located in Roper, and there are no high school students on the Crestwell High campus. It was an empty building.
Yeah.
And so the plan would be grades 3, 4, and 5, as well as any other kinds of offices would be over in the high school. And then the same concept that was discussed really early on, where like the art teacher would go to the classroom, like her office space would be over at the high school, but she would go class to offer the lessons, that kind of thing.
Our custodians and our teachers are to be immediate.
Absolutely.
Y'all got much lately.
No, that was my mistake. It's tomorrow. I got off a day, like I was thinking it was Friday, but it's tomorrow. No. We told them
Okay.
because I didn't want them to bring lunch, but I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a need for me.
I do too.
Next time, something like this, now, we could probably just go out to Mr. Porter, and right next to the school block, the school, what is it? The county office, and get some new halls and help them. They were getting low, want to put stuff in their halls. Those women were working. That would be convenient for a job here.
Yeah, can you share us some light on your school?
What?
I said, as we, you've done the walkthrough to our campus, and you've chosen Crestwell High School and the elementary school. So, explain to you what you see that you like or whatever.
I was asked to go check the schools out and find an area for, see what rooms are available in the school. I left, I was told that they were looking at the fourth and fifth grade, the middle school and the rest of the building, rest of the students in the, elementary in, Crestwell. When I got down there, I saw the number of rooms that we had, down there. If we were going to have to move, I did not want my kids split. I mean, it would be hard to have half of them in one school and another half in another school. So if I had to leave and move, then I didn't want to stay between schools. Yeah, if we had moved, then I would want to be together. The staff, and right now, I'm having an issue even with our second name, but they want to be where we go. But unfortunately, that wasn't, work out in place.
couldn't put them all in the high school until we decided we were going to without you.
I don't think there were enough rooms in the high school.
To have kindergarten to,
But I do think that Mr. Peel's plan is good because he's got a hallway together, like they're not split apart. And then in the other building, he's got another string of classrooms together. It's the best scenario for a difficult transition in time.
Another question I have for you. All the technology of the red to bring money on. Those teachers.
we do not have, all the whiteboards, and all the stuff up yet. Technology have been down there working on it, but they're not all up yet.
So the kid, money on. The kid will be ready to go to school. Classes, all the technology that we need.
I can't say that. I just know that all our, I know Smith has.
I'm talking about being a class.
So I can't say where they get.
Mr. Smith, can we ask you?
Absolutely. So, after talking with her, she was asking me to give some details about what we've done. So,
Okay, that'd be great.
I'll be glad to address what we've already done. Number one, a prime concern was making sure that the principal could communicate with each one of the classrooms. The classrooms down in the buildings don't have phones in them. So we made that the top priority, is moving the phones from Pines Elementary School into the classrooms, and we completed that. So every class has a phone. I think we had a couple rooms all the way at the end where my guys had to go run lines to the rooms, and they completed that this evening. So that's ready to go. Our second priority was to remind the staff that with the students using the computers, even with the students being face-to-face, teachers are still using digital technology to collaborate, communicate, and to educate these students. So anything the teacher wants, she could put up on the kid's screen, whether they're at home or whether they're sitting right in front of them. And really, truly, that eliminates the need for a projector and a screen. However, everyone learns differently. So after talking with Dr. Carr, we decided to begin the very difficult task of dismantling. You see how those projectors in this room are mounted in the ceiling? That's a permanent installation. We have been breaking those down by one by hand and relocating them to both of the schools. As of this evening, we have relocated projectors in every room. However, every single room does not have what we call a smart board on the wall. Okay. So in the places where they haven't had those, Mr. Phil, we got these drop-down screens that are like you see here. We put about 4 or 5 of those in. And like the teachers had mentioned earlier, there's some of the rooms that were bare bones. They didn't have a whiteboard. They didn't have a stick. They just had a chalkboard. Okay. But as of this evening, every room has a projector so that they can at least project in the class for the students who need that modality in front of them. And to be honest with you, by Monday, that is what I call a Jesus miracle. I don't think we could do much more than that between now and then. Now to physically relocate anything else out of Pines is going to take some time. It's going to take more than just my team. It's going to take a concerted effort, and we can do that. The question is, do you want to invest the time in the capital if we're going to have to take it back? Right. And when we take it back, anything that we dismantle out of this concrete brick is going to damage that brick, and it will not go back the same way. It will leave rivets. And I think that was one of the banes of Frank Stevens when he was here, was that he hated we mounted things into the bricks, but it's a permanent installation. It was made to be there so that no matter what happens. And of course, when we close down the school and start using it for other purposes, we took the technology out of there and redistributed it so that no classroom would say they didn't have the same thing. We were equitable with our technology across the board. So, Mr. Peel, can you confirm that? Have you seen that this evening since you left, or did you leave early? I don't know. But that's what my guys are reporting back to me from this afternoon.
So
Ma'am? I didn't go today. I went down there yesterday, and we didn't have a phone in the gym. Ma'am?
Don't you think it's your job to go down and check on that phone?
Absolutely, every day.
Well, let me, I do wanna say this, they have put them, down at the door when I went through them. I do wanna speak to something that you said. In theory, you're right. The computers are there and the teacher can project whatever they want to train with kids when they're home. But when you got 10 kids in a classroom and everybody is computers running at the same time, you get echo. So yeah, you're right, but as a teacher, they're sitting there with the echo of all the computers going. So that is why they need the whiteboards so that they can project in their classroom.
Okay. So that's been taken care of. He said that's been taken care of.
We moved projectors out of Pine School and we've taken them down there into the
No,
classroom.
I'm saying, he said they get echo. So I was saying, so.
No, if we're using the computer, if they go with
Yeah.
the computer and not having the whiteboard, that's the issue.
So the whiteboards are in there, man. That's what you just said.
No, sir, let me be very clear.
Okay.
So, what Mr. Peel is saying is absolutely correct. When a teacher is broadcasting, if everyone's computer is on, they will get an echo and you can't hear, you can't function. The only way around that is to give every student their own pair of headphones, which we don't have inventory to give every student a pair of headphones, which will probably get left home anyway. So to mitigate that, it's easier for a teacher to project one image and play one set of sound than one from everybody. But we have taken the projectors down, we've dismantled them from Pines, and we've taken them down to Crestwell and placed them in the rooms.
So I was gonna ask if the teachers are having issues with the echo, when they have a lot of kids on, you guys just kind of assist, with to try to alleviate some of it.
Indeed.
So,
And I think the teachers have a really good handle on that. They know how to stop that and how to keep it from happening. I think Mr. Peel, and I don't want to speak for you, I think he was making that point to say it's important for us to get the projectors down there, right? Okay, all right. And so even though it's a hard task, he said it's important to get it done, we're getting it done. Yes, sir. Does that clarify?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We have, kindergarten classroom that has two, we have to multi-purpose room in Crestwell Elementary School. So we do have two grade classes in there, but both of our kindergarten classes, but there are two teachers teaching them now. We had a petition in there, but what happened with the teachers down there, they said they'd rather team teach, being that they were in the same room. So they said, if the space and so they won't be echoing off each other. They thought it would be better for them to team teach if they had this.
Sounds good.
Any more discussion on that one? We still have to go back to closed session and discuss.
I'm sorry?
We still got to go back in closed session. Any more discussion on it?
I know.
We'll get one question. Last and final question. I'm just messing. Yes, Chairman.
Are you planning on having a technician down there taking a picture every day, when you get up and running and Monday and whatever? You gonna have a technician down there?
You want to have somebody there and what's the change?
Are you mean like on a regular basis?
Well, not really all day long, but the first couple of days, man.
Absolutely. We would be all hands on deck to make sure things are smooth. Our advisor from the State Board of Education had one of those same concerns that she brought up. And I assured her that my team would go room to room to make sure we do a little bit of hand holding to make it as smooth as possible. Like Dr. Carr said, it's different when you're not at home and everything's new. You got to figure out where the salt and pepper shakers are. But we will be there and we will hold hands and we'll make sure that they're successful with to the extent possible. Indeed, we will be there.
I got more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Why is it that, last question, why is it that our media coordinators have to give out all these Chromebooks and go fill out paperwork for the kids that break the Chromebook, pass them out, and they have to teach the class too? Why y'all don't have somebody there?
That's a great question. And I've been here 18 and a half years, Ms. Clark, and I have asked the last 7 superintendents, including the 2 interim ones, that I need 7 people on my staff, but I'll settle for 4. And right now, we're moving mountains with what we have. And
To that, Mr. Smith, I say this,
yes, sir.
I'm just going to mention that it's only 3, it's only 2 people working at the department. And Dan makes the 3rd, and he's the director. And I've already talked with the as a superintendent, that there's something, because everything is a lot technology based now. We're trying to get some technology people included in that. So to get someone help to that department, because when you don't want to overload, when people can, that's a lot to do, pulling wires and stuff and telephones, so that's a lot to do with one day. You know, so we just got to be considerate of people that doing it. You know, so, I mean, everybody got to help do it and make it work. So I've already, she's gonna get that in there.
And it's already in the plan with a tech facilitator. So it's partially in there, but we'll look back at our number and see if we need to adjust it at all.
They ain't gonna be helping too.
Absolutely, every day. That's how we roll.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. P.
Thank you. Mr. Peel, thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow with sandwiches.
Okay.
And so, our attorney has advised that we approve the Pines Elementary Staff School proposal as presented for the remainder of the 2020 school year. Just to let parents know we're in conversation with the county commission. And we're working on a plan, a more permanent plan for Washington County School. It's gonna work. It's gonna work.
So moved. I said so moved.
Yeah, all right.
I'm giving you a motion.
Him, are you listening?
Got you.
You listening?
I'm gonna get to you in a minute. Okay. Okay, so we're moving about this thing. And with the, we need to include it, you know, let them know they can remain virtual if they so choose.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving policy, all in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. All right.
The last item on the list was the board's thoughts on a virtual option for 21-22. I did include some information on looking forward. Of course, parents know that we were entertaining that because there was a survey out for 6 weeks. And as Mr. Mormon mentioned, we did hear back from 667. And so 667 responded, and it bounced back and forth as the different numbers came in. But it is evident that we may want to consider that as an option for next year, because anywhere between 20 and 25% have indicated a desire to remain in a remote status for next year. So part of the spring community meetings information included that were it to be approved as an option for next year, it would come with a different set of expectations and accountability, far different than this year. So it would be more similar to other counties that have had that, where there would be required attendance, engagement, success, and effort. And it also would have the caveat that were it not an option that was working for that student, that they would be required to return face-to-face. So there are some counties around us that have been doing that for a number of years. And so we could, pull models from them. My concern is, were it not an option available for Washington County students in 21-22, I don't know that we can afford to lose 20 to 25% of our students that may select Connections Academy or other virtual options that would allow them that flexibility to stay at home and either homeschool or choose that option just outside of Washington County schools. So that's kind of.
Is this what you're talking about, making Ms. Maloney do virtual something?
No one has ever said that.
Then call Ms. Maloney.
Sure. She asked me that direct question. She asked me that direct question in my office and I said, I've never said that. That I've never said that.
I'm asking what she said.
I know, Carl,
No, what I'm proposing is that we offer that as an option, and I'm not suggesting that we apply for a different school number or that students be removed from what their current attendance district with whatever we come up with for the 21-22 configuration.
So if, I just want to be clear. So if somebody's gonna remain, say I'm doing a virtual academy, it looks like when you say virtual academy, it is a different program, I guess. That's how it is.
And it is because,
So if I attend virtual academy, I'll be attending virtual academy. If I'm going to Washington High School, there'll be virtual academy for Washington County High School.
yes, sir, and that,
My numbers will remain at the high school.
yes, sir.
But will they receive ADM?
Well,
They receive, because I don't.
yes.
They will receive the same ADM for that student.
Yes, and that's where I needed the clarity because Ms. Jordan, yeah, Ms. Jordan and I were having conversations with administrators, because you look at how much staff is anticipated based on the estimated numbers that may be attending that school next year. And so you're trying to decide how many teachers would need to be available with the data we have now that it appeared for virtual, because the goal would be to have a virtual teacher for elementary and not have a teacher having to do both.
So what would happen to a teacher and what would happen to, say, I'm just using Washington High School because right here.
Okay.
Let's say Washington High School, if a teacher says, that teacher doesn't have any students because those kids have remained virtual, what happens to that teacher position?
Well, and that's part of what I'm trying to get the board to entertain. If we lose 20 to 25% of our students, we will lose positions and we will lose teachers.
I just think that, right, you might need to just think about it for a little while. I don't want to jump on this right now, I'm not, because I don't want to put it in the teacher now thinking they're gonna lose the job.
Right, and I'm trying to protect it.
I
That's,
don't think.
yeah, that's my position is I'm trying to come up with,
But that's up to the board. I just want to be, I don't want to entertain, it's a lot going on. We got school to shut down. We're trying to see how we're gonna get this building done. I don't even want to put this in teacher thoughts that here they may lose students, if they lose students, and they're not gonna have a job. You know, that's what's gonna happen.
I mean, but a lot of that is, like, I mean, but we also need to realize that we lost a lot of kids.
a lot of these teachers
So-
get shifted to the virtual.
Right.
Then it was like, the teachers are gonna be with it, they don't be gone.
I just think, I would like to see, well, instead of a discussion of who on this, and I just think that we should have a full revised plan.
I'm saying that we are, at this time of year, you're in preliminary plans because you have to come up with a tentative schedule. Students have to sign up for
So
courses.
can we have, in the board now, I would like to see that plan instead of just approving something that's on the paper, like to say discussion.
You can't come up with a plan unless you have clarity on.
You had 20-something, 25% of the students, you said, they don't talk with you about how much it would.
We put the survey out there for 6 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, and we had 667 parents say, okay, this is what I want for next year. And so we do still have a large contingency that we have not heard from. So that could potentially go up or down. And so my thought process mirror my other colleagues across the state that are saying, if we don't become competitive and we don't offer options, then we could potentially lose more kids, because I think kind of nationally, we've got a group, not a large group, but a big enough group for us that we need to think about it, that are saying, I want to be at home. I like remote. I want to stay remote. And so then it just becomes, pardon?
Certain grades, right?
No, the proposal is K through 12.
K through 12, yeah.
And looking at the the 667 responses we have right now, it looks like it would be 2 teachers in elementary. And that would stay within, now, of course, I hadn't heard back from the other group that gets me up to 1,200 kids. But you have to have these thoughts in the spring so that you can design what that would look like, because just like any other thing, you have really excellent people who have really done an excellent job with remote teaching. But like when the conversation took place with, we had Ms. Peel's meeting today, she said, well, this is what I would want. Were it to be something that we would do, you know, a high school teacher teaches 3 periods a day and they have 1 period planning. So what her idea for designing her matrix would be that she would do a virtual period and then she'd have face-to-face for 2 periods. So now it wouldn't put a teacher having to teach both at the same time. They would have this is my virtual class, and then the other 2 periods would be their face-to-face kids, because what we don't want long-term is to try to keep up with what we've had to do this year. I don't know that that is wise moving forward for long periods of time, but you do have to come up with a schedule. And so
I just need a little time to digest it, just to kind of think about it.
and I
I'm thinking
understand,
about people coming to us with questions.
Right. They just can't come up with a matrix
Yeah, I don't
without
have my
it.
students in the classroom, what happens to my job.
And that's what I'm trying to protect, Mr. Riddick.
Right.
That's my goal.
I know that, but
So many teachers. It's told. It's told.
I don't want.
I'm trying to protect our teachers and our kids.
Let's hurry up to the board. Yeah,
I mean, if you wanna table it, I mean, we have to look at the crunch they're gonna be in trying to get things scheduled.
That's what I'm saying, it's up to however y'all wanna handle it, but I just need some time. To get, because we're gonna have questions about this, y'all. We don't have all the answers.
Right.
We're not
And
gonna
we
get
can't
it until
have
they
all
design
that.
it.
So that's what I'm saying, this is what I like to approve. I like, and Miss Knight can tell if I'm wrong, but I like to approve stuff that come with the plan. You said until they design it, but if you can design it, you already know what you want it to look like.
I
So
have,
we got
yeah,
a plan that comes.
yeah, I have an idea, but,
Show us a rough draft of how it's looking. I mean, you know, I think that it would be better if we had something in front of us that said, this is how, like we said, Ms. Peter talked about,
right,
you know, each
we
school
have
their
had that
plans on
conversation.
how they're gonna do it, and then we know what we're looking at.
Okay,
But just to say we're gonna approve it, it's just out there, so whatever, if we approve it, that means that whatever plans come with it, we've approved it. So we say like we approve it.
No,
Yeah.
we would still have the option to approve each plan
Nah,
individually. Yes, we would.
no, 'cause one, after you, according to this, Ms. Chair, it says discussion of a virtual academy, once we approve the virtual academy. It's
So
approved.
you approve that we're going to offer an academy. We don't approve what it's going to actually look like until they get numbers, they can actually plug numbers in. You can't do that.
I mean, I'm just,
But what I'm saying is,
I'll bring it to the May meeting, Chairman.
you're gonna table it till Mike?
Pardon? I just didn't hear
she
you.
said she.
I got a motion that we take this conversation until someone can close session.
We go quick. What time frame, what kind of time frame do we have before we make a decision?
Well, they would like to begin scheduling now. Because, you know, all of their high school classes have to be scheduled around college classes. And so you know, especially at the high school, and the high school's the main thing. High school has to start scheduling earlier. You know, the middle school can wait a little bit longer, and elementary, you know, it's not that imperative, but the high school is the one that takes a lot of time because you have to meet with each child individually. They have to select courses, and you've got to know how many sections of what course you're offering. So it is a very laborious task to come up with a class matrix, so the sooner the better.
You have buy-in from your administrator, are they okay with it?
I think they understand that were we not to offer virtual, we will lose ADM, and that has repercussions. So they understand that it's kind of it's just a shift in kind of like public education, and in order to stay competitive for students, it's just.
Well, it started even before the pandemic.
Yes,
We
sir.
had Virtual academy and, for our charter schools, and we had kids living here who are attending that program, you lose their ADM and their funding. And like, all this is doing is hastening that, and this gives you a chance to develop an alternative to compete.
Yeah, the other thing I learned last night at another meeting was that North Carolina is poised to approve, I don't know, there's a handful more of these virtual academies where it gets giving these students more options that want to remain.
You didn't say we were gonna do it, but only thing we asking for is find out to see what we're looking at.
Would it hurt us if we were to do that? I'm just asking.
It's not gonna hurt us.
That's all I wanna know.
Yeah, it just gives the high school counselors less time to meet with kids and bring them in, that kind of thing. So the sooner they can get started, the better, but no, sir, it's not gonna hurt us. And I mean, they're gonna make it work. I mean, even if it takes the middle of the summer pulling kids in, they're gonna meet with each one and get their feedback, but.
Which one?
Oh, no.
I just got a little,
I do too, because I want kids face to face. But if we're gonna lose 25% of our kids,
In other words, we got to compete.
You gotta do it.
Just my thoughts.
You have to compete, and I don't feel like that. I'm sure our kids. You know, I want to. Huh? Charter school.
And Washington High School, Washington County High School, Washington High School is a resource school already.
Right.
So, the ADM there is fine, the ADM, I mean, like I said, it's fine, but it's okay. I just don't want to rush it. And if we can have some time to, because you're gonna definitely have to hire probably online teachers anyway. No, 'cause I don't want to have to hire online teachers to get rid of what we got.
no, that's not the.
But I'm asking these questions, I might not know. I'm saying I'm asking these questions because these are questions that we're gonna be asked.
Right.
So we need answers. We just can't go out there with out of whim and say, yeah, we got a virtual academy. You know how we got to sell it.
It's a way to protect.
Yeah. And so I just, but that's just me. But
Right.
if the board wants to move forward with a virtual academy, that's fine. When you gonna fight over that?
No, I guess my question would be, so when we come back next month, what are we expecting?
I want to hear from principals. I want to hear, this board deserves that. To hear the buy-in from principals, we deserve, because we need to know that we have support. When this program go off, you need support of everybody. I don't need one or two people saying they support it. And one or two, we need to know where we are. That's all. We've always done it this way. We've always said we will work together instead of just making a plan to say, that's all. I'm not stopping what's going on. I know we're moving to a technology-based world. Pretty soon robots will be doing the job. They probably already are. I just need some, I'm a visual type person. I need to see it on paper to see how it's gonna work. I just don't want to rush it.
So Dr. Carr, you don't have a plan in place for us? Okay, thank you.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
what I need to know.
So we'll table it until then. Okay. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We would need a motion to return to closed session.
And no action will be taken. No action will be taken. Right. There's no action will be taken.
Chairman, I make a motion that we turn back into closed session.
Okay?
Second.
Moving properly, second, all in favor? All right.